Hi, my name is John. I was married to my beautiful wife for 3 long years. We lived in a small apartment complex a few blocks from my parents' house, so if we ever needed anything, I knew we'd be able to turn to them. Things started going downhill around last December. She had seasonal affective disorder in the winter and had been complaining for a few months now about being in a rut. We weren't in the best position financially, but we weren't in any crazy debt or anything like that. I just kept reassuring her that everything would be okay soon. I pulled extra shifts and worked really hard. She had a part-time job as well, but was also taking night classes to become a nurse. Everything started looking up until 2 weeks before Christmas. My car completely broke, and I had to find a new one. This ruined any chance of a vacation or presents this year, and when I told my wife what happened, I could tell she blamed me for it. I didn't get mad at her though. Things were pretty bleak for her, and I assured her things would be looking up soon. I ended up borrowing money from my parents to get a new vehicle. On the drive home, I got a call from the hospital. My wife committed suicide. It's only been a few months since then, and it's been a lot harder on me since she's not around anymore. I ended up moving back in with my parents. On top of it all, I got my hours pushed back at work, so I had a lot more time on my hands than I was comfortable with. I started browsing the web more often, and I always enjoyed the thrill of finding new things online. So when I heard from a friend about the deep web, I couldn't pass it up. I installed the necessary programs and started browsing. I found a few child pornography sites and places to hire hitmen, but none of that really interested me. I did eventually find a site that I thought to be packed with thrills. It was a confession site. Each confession was looking for forgiveness from God, and there were some serious horror stories on there. There was everything from minor mistakes to torture stories. How much of it was really true, I couldn't tell you. But I did find a confession by a seemingly young woman that caught my eye. She confessed to faking her own death. She viewed her husband as a complete and utter failure, and was willing to do anything to get out of the marriage. I thought this was just an odd coincidence until I saw at the bottom of the apology, she ended it with, "Sorry, John." It was a casual Friday night with nothing to do but to browse the internet. I decided tonight I would look for some porn on the deep web. Hey, everyone does it. I saw a promising looking video and decided to click on it. It was really good quality for the kind of stuff you find on here, and it was in a different language, so I wasn't exactly sure what kind of turn the video would take when I saw a woman tied to a chair and 3 men with Guy Fawkes masks standing around her. They senselessly beat the shit out of her. I mean, it was the most brutal thing I have ever seen. The girl was crying and seemed to be begging for her life. They all pulled out a different tool and started opening up her flesh and entering the wounds. Given the nature of the video, I'm sure you can get what I mean. I couldn't believe my eyes. I was just in pure shock watching this tragic scene occur. I mean, I knew there was a lot of messed up shit in the world, but saying the world is fucked up and actually watching a video like this were two different worlds. The video ended with the men chopping what was left of the woman into pieces and throwing it into a furnace. The scariest part was, I enjoyed it. Let me just warn you to never use the deep web under any circumstance. I know there are a lot of YouTube channels making videos about it right now, but avoid it at all costs. I was such an upbeat, happy person, but there are just some things you can't unsee. And unless you have the right kind of personality to be able to deal with that sort of thing, it really can ruin you. My friend, who has always been a much darker person than I, had been talking about it for a while and pressuring me to give it a look for myself. I honestly knew next to nothing about it, but I complied and thought a little excitement in my life would do me some good. I just arrived back at my place after work when I powered up my laptop. I searched around for a while, and I was a bit skeeved out the first time I came across a link to human experiments. I did my best to stay away from shit like that. I eventually found myself on a pretty interesting page. I scrolled down, and to my utter astonishment, I saw something that made me nearly vomit. I won't tell you what exactly I saw. Let me just say it was disturbing enough that I slammed my laptop shut and cracked the screen. I've never been the same since. I feel really guilty and stressed out about the whole situation. I don't know what to do other than advise anyone who mentions the deep web to avoid it. I've been freaking out for weeks now. I don't know what to do or where to turn. I really don't think anyone can help me at this point. Okay, so I was surfing the dark web for whatever reason when I came across a human experiment kind of video. I don't know why, but I always felt like I learned something about the human body from stuff like this. About halfway through, I noticed it was a live recording when I saw a text screen on the right hand side of the computer. I have seen a lot of sick stuff with the interests I have, but the stuff this guy was doing was over the top. I mean, it was the kind of thing that would put Dr. Mengele himself to shame. And that wasn't even the freaky part. He stopped and looked directly at the camera. For some reason, I felt like he was looking directly at me, and it made me feel even more uneasy than I already was. He looked directly into my soul and said, "Be unafraid." This scared the living shit out of me because I just knew he was saying it to me. I shut my computer down and I went for a walk. When I got back, I noticed a text message from my cousin who I rarely spoke to. At the end of it, he said, "Be unafraid." I thought he was trolling me somehow, but I called him and asked him, and he denied it. I knew he had such a little grasp on computers in general, so I passed it off as a coincidence. Until I saw my girlfriend tweet those exact words a week later. It wasn't directly toward me, but it may as well have been. It started popping up everywhere I went, from YouTube videos to random articles, even in the porn I watched. I was just sitting in my room when I decided I'd try to get my mind off it with some comedy videos. When I clicked on an innocent enough Fred video on YouTube, it wasn't what I expected. I mean, I made sure it was the right video and the right channel, but it just wasn't Fred at all. What I did see was that same man I saw in that video standing over a corpse. I felt my heart sink when I noticed it roughly resembled me, but it was mutilated to a point I couldn't really tell. He looked into the camera the way he did the first night and asked me, "Are you afraid yet?"